Tuesday morning, I arrived at work early, like always. I swiped my keycard at the front entrance and watched the light flash red. Access denied. I tried again. Same result. Confused, I pulled out my phone and tried logging into my email. The screen showed an error message. Account locked. My hands started shaking. Then a Slack notification popped up from my coworker Marcus. "Wait, I thought you quit. Brian said you walked out Friday without notice." My stomach dropped like an elevator with cut cables. What the hell was going on? I'd submitted my resignation properly on Friday afternoon, 2 weeks notice, professional email to both Brian and HR. I even offered to help train my replacement. And now Brian was telling everyone I'd ghosted? He'd erased me. My team lead Zoe called me within minutes, her voice hushed and urgent. "Callie, what's happening? Brian told the whole team in our morning stand-up that you just disappeared, that you walked out Friday and never came back. No notice, no explanation, nothing." I felt my face burning with anger. "Zoe, I submitted my resignation in writing Friday at 5 p.m. I gave 2 weeks notice. I have the email receipts with timestamps." There was a long pause on her end. "He's lying," she whispered. "He's actually lying to everyone." After we hung up, I sat in my car in the parking lot, hands gripping the steering wheel. Brian hadn't just disrespected me. He'd tried to destroy my professional reputation. He'd made me look unstable, unprofessional, unreliable. This was deliberate character assassination. I opened my laptop and found the draft email I'd written weeks ago in a moment of rage. I'd never planned to send it. It was just venting, a way to process my anger at Brian's endless manipulations. Subject line: "A quick clarification before I go." I'd addressed it to the entire company distribution list. The email detailed everything: the credit theft, the retaliation, the gaslighting, every incident I documented over 6 months. My finger hovered over the send button. This would burn bridges. This would be nuclear. But Brian had already lit the match by lying about me. If he wanted everyone to believe I'd vanished without explanation, maybe it was time they heard the actual truth. I took a deep breath and hit send. The email disappeared from my drafts folder. There was no taking it back now. 6 months earlier, I'd presented a breakthrough process improvement during a team meeting. I'd spent weeks researching and developing it. The presentation was solid, backed by data and clear implementation steps. Brian had interrupted me halfway through. "Let's table this for now. We'll revisit it after leadership review." I'd nodded, trusting that he meant it. 2 weeks later, Brian presented my exact idea in a department-wide meeting. Every slide, every recommendation, every data point. His name was on the cover page. Mine was nowhere. When I tried to bring it up afterward, he acted confused. "We all contribute ideas to the team pool, Callie. That's how collaboration works." I'd left his office feeling gaslit and stupid. That's when I started documenting everything. Every meeting, every idea, every theft. I'd gone to HR after the third incident of stolen credit. Shauna, the HR business partner, listened with a polite but glazed expression. She took notes, but her body language screamed disinterest. "That's not technically a policy violation," she said finally. "Ideas developed during work hours are company property. Your manager has discretion over presentation and credit." I'd smiled politely and thanked her for her time, but inside, a voice whispered clearly, "Start collecting everything. Not for HR, for something bigger." I went back to my desk and created a private folder in my personal cloud storage. I started saving every email, every Slack message, every meeting recording where Brian took credit for my work. I was building something now, not a complaint, proof. Undeniable, time-stamped, documented proof. Brian dangled a promotion like bait for months. "Just hold tight, Callie. We're evaluating some leadership changes. Your name is definitely in the conversation." He asked me to draft an internal strategy document for a major client pitch. I spent 3 weeks perfecting it, working nights and weekends.
Then he gave it to Hannah, a junior hire with 6 months of experience, to present in the meeting. "She's better with delivery," he explained when I asked why. "You're more valuable behind the scenes." I watched Hannah present my work to executives who praised her strategic thinking. She looked uncomfortable, shooting me apologetic glances, but she presented it anyway. That night, I added the strategy document to my proof folder with creation timestamps and edit history showing every word was mine. I stopped reacting visibly to Brian's behavior. Every time he stole credit or blocked an opportunity, I smiled and nodded, professionally, calmly. But privately, I was systematically documenting everything. Project logs showing my contributions, meeting recordings where I presented ideas later claimed by Brian, Slack message archives proving timelines, HR email threads showing I tried to escalate, performance reviews where Brian praised my work privately but never publicly. The folder grew larger every week. I organized it meticulously by date and incident type. I wasn't sure yet what I'd do with all this evidence, but I knew that if things got worse, I wanted the complete story documented. Not my interpretation, the actual facts. Timestamps don't lie. Screenshots don't gaslight. Evidence speaks for itself. During our last one-on-one meeting, Brian leaned back in his chair and said something that changed everything. "Callie, I'm going to be honest. You're becoming difficult to manage. Your attitude about credit and recognition is creating tension. Maybe this isn't the right place for you anymore." It wasn't a suggestion. It was a threat. I nodded calmly, thanked him for his feedback, and left his office. That night, I drafted my resignation letter. Clean, professional, gracious even. I thanked the company for opportunities. I gave 2 weeks' notice. I offered to document my processes and train whoever replaced me. I sent it Friday afternoon at 5:04 p.m. to both Brian and HR with read receipts enabled. The timestamps showed both of them opened it within an hour. I had proof they'd received my proper resignation.
Over the weekend, Brian told the entire team I'd ghosted. He deleted my system access. He removed me from all distribution lists. HR was CC'd on his internal communications but said nothing. They let him spread the lie without correction. Meanwhile, I was home slowly packing up my things, planning a quiet exit. I assumed I'd serve my 2 weeks, hand off my projects professionally, and leave with my reputation intact. I had no idea Brian was destroying that reputation behind my back. No idea he was painting me as unstable and unprofessional to everyone we worked with. I didn't find out until Tuesday morning when my keycard didn't work, when Marcus's confused message made everything clear. That's when I decided quiet wasn't an option anymore. My email hit inboxes across the entire company within seconds. I'd kept it factual and professional despite my anger. I'm writing to clarify my departure. I submitted formal resignation on Friday, November 15th at 5:04 p.m. with 2 weeks' notice. I offered to train my replacement and document all processes. I'm confused by reports that I quit without notice, as this contradicts the written resignation sent to both my manager and HR. Then I included 3 links to my cloud folder, screenshots of my resignation email with timestamps, documentation of the pattern of credit theft, HR email threads showing escalations that went nowhere. I wish my departure had been respected. I'll let the receipts speak for themselves. I signed it simply, Callie Dean. Then I waited for the storm. The replies started within minutes. First, just whispers and forwarded messages. Then people started responding directly to my email. I saw this happen in real time. He did the same thing to Jamal last year. I thought something felt off about the story. My personal inbox lit up with messages from current and former colleagues, people I'd worked with for years, people who'd watched Brian take credit for their work too. The validation felt overwhelming. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't difficult. I wasn't imagining things. Other people had seen it. Other people had experienced it. A pattern was emerging that was bigger than just me. Brian hadn't just targeted one person. He'd created a system of theft and retaliation, and now everyone could see it clearly. The truth was spreading faster than his lies ever could.
HR finally reached out 3 hours after my email went out. Shauna, who'd brushed off my complaints for months, suddenly wanted to discuss my exit more formally. I read her message twice before responding. That window closed the moment Brian lied to the team about my departure. I submitted proper notice. He chose to disrespect that and damage my reputation. We have nothing further to discuss. Then I CC'd the employment attorney I'd consulted over the weekend, just in case, just to make it clear I wasn't backing down, that I had professional support, that this wasn't going away quietly. Shauna's reply was terse. Understood. We'll process your exit per your original resignation date. No apology, no acknowledgement of wrongdoing, just damage control. But it was too late for that now. The VP of Operations, Tina March, emailed me directly that afternoon. Her message was careful but respectful. "Callie, can we speak privately? I'd like to understand the full situation." We met at a coffee shop downtown, away from the office. Tina was in her 50s, known for being direct and fair. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. We've had complaints about Brian before, informal ones, nothing documented as thoroughly as what you've shared. She sipped her coffee slowly. "You're not the first person to have issues with him, but you're the first person to document everything so completely." I felt validated and angry simultaneously. How many people complained before someone took it seriously? I asked. Tina looked uncomfortable. "Too many," she admitted. "That changes now." I shared my complete documentation folder with Tina during our meeting. Every file was time-stamped and organized, nothing speculative or emotional, just facts. Emails, meeting recordings, screenshots, performance reviews, project files with edit histories. 6 months of systematic evidence showing a clear pattern of credit theft and retaliation. I was willing to leave quietly, I told her honestly. I just wanted to move on. Brian made that impossible by lying about me, by trying to damage my professional reputation on my way out. Tina reviewed several files on her laptop, her expression growing darker with each one. "This is extensive," she said finally, "and damning. I'm bringing this to the executive team immediately." She closed her laptop. "Thank you for documenting everything properly. It matters." Tina invited me to a closed-door roundtable meeting 2 days later. Present were representatives from HR, legal, and operations. Brian wasn't invited. I presented calmly and professionally, walking them through the timeline. The first incident of credit theft, the escalation to HR that went nowhere, the pattern continuing, the phantom promotion, the final retaliation of lying about my resignation. I didn't let emotion creep into my voice. I just stated facts and showed evidence. "I'm not asking for revenge," I said clearly. "I'm asking for accountability, for recognition that this pattern existed and damaged people." The legal representative took extensive notes. The HR director looked uncomfortable. Tina nodded throughout. "This is exactly the kind of behavior we're committed to addressing," she said, "starting now." The meeting lasted 2 hours. I left feeling heard for the first time. 2 employees submitted anonymous corroborations within days. Another sent a signed affidavit describing similar treatment from Brian. Former team members reached out, sharing their own stories. The pattern was undeniable. HR had no choice but to open an official investigation. During one meeting, the HR director asked, "Why didn't anyone speak up sooner?" I stared at her directly. We did, repeatedly, to Shauna, to our previous HR partner. We were told it wasn't a policy violation, that we were being too sensitive about credit, that we needed to be team players. I leaned forward. We weren't supposed to be believed, so we stopped trying, until the evidence became impossible to ignore. The room went silent. Everyone knew I was right. The system had failed. Now it had to answer for that failure. Word spread through the company quickly. Brian called my email a smear campaign. "This is just a disgruntled ex-employee trying to make waves on her way out," he told anyone who would listen. But Tina had already seen the proof. She'd reviewed every document personally. Brian's denials meant nothing against time-stamped evidence and corroborating witnesses. When he tried to schedule meetings with the executive team to defend himself, they declined. The investigation was already underway. His version of events didn't matter anymore. Only the facts mattered. Only the documented pattern mattered. Brian had spent 6 months building a house of lies. My email and documentation had knocked out every support beam. Now the whole structure was collapsing on top of him. Justice felt slow, but it felt inevitable. I filled out my exit survey with brutal honesty. Every question got a detailed answer backed by specific examples. Under reason for leaving, I wrote 3 paragraphs documenting the credit theft and retaliation. I included quotes, screenshots, and dates. Then I added something that caught the attention of the analytics team. I noted that 5 employees had left our department in the past year, all women, all reporting directly to Brian, all citing similar issues in their confidential exit surveys that nobody had apparently connected or investigated. The pattern was statistically significant. The analytics team flagged it to the DEI committee. Suddenly, Brian's behavior wasn't just about me. It was a systemic issue affecting retention and culture. The investigation expanded significantly. More people were interviewed. More evidence emerged. HR informed staff that a leadership review was underway in our department. They didn't name Brian, but everyone knew. He disappeared from meetings. His calendar showed blocked time with no explanations. The executive team stopped including him in strategic discussions. Coworkers stopped pretending everything was normal. People started talking openly in the break room about what had happened. He messed with the wrong person, I heard someone say while getting coffee. Callie documented everything. Another voice replied, "Good, about time someone held him accountable." I wasn't in the office to hear these conversations, but people kept texting me updates. The culture was shifting. People were questioning things they'd previously accepted as normal. My email hadn't just exposed Brian. It had opened everyone's eyes to systemic problems. 2 recruiters reached out to me within a week of my email going viral. "We saw what happened and how you handled it," one said during our call. "Professional documentation, calm communication, refusal to be gaslight. That's exactly the kind of leadership we're looking for." The other recruiter was even more direct. "Your story went around our industry network. People are talking about it, not because of drama, but because of how strategically you protected yourself. Want to chat about opportunities?" I wasn't unemployed anymore. I was being actively recruited by companies who valued integrity. My LinkedIn profile views tripled. Interview requests came daily. Turns out, standing up for yourself with evidence and professionalism was a valuable skill. Who knew? I started scheduling calls with the most interesting opportunities. The CEO called an all-staff meeting 3 weeks after my email. He spoke carefully, reading from prepared remarks. "We're restructuring our management team based on internal feedback and recent documentation. We take workplace culture seriously, and when issues are brought to our attention with evidence, we act." Brian's name was never mentioned directly, but his office was vacant by the next morning, his nameplate removed, his files boxed up. People walked past the empty space in silence, understanding what it meant. The company sent out a brief statement: "Leadership changes in product operations effective immediately." No details, no explanation, but everyone knew. Everyone understood. Brian was gone. Not reassigned, not promoted sideways, actually gone. The investigation had concluded. The evidence had been overwhelming. Justice had finally arrived. I received an email from the company's legal team a week later. "We'd like to discuss a formal acknowledgement of your contributions and treatment during your tenure. No NDA required, no settlement requested. Just recognition, in writing, of what occurred and how we're addressing it." I read the message 3 times, suspicious. Companies don't usually admit wrongdoing without legal pressure. But Tina had apparently pushed for this. She wanted accountability, not just quiet removal. I agreed to the meeting. They presented a letter acknowledging the pattern of credit theft, apologizing for HR's failure to act, and outlining new policies to prevent similar situations. They offered it as a public document I could share. I accepted. Publicly. Some people thought I should have pushed for money, but I wanted something more valuable: the truth on record. Hannah, the junior employee Brian had used to present my work, resigned 2 weeks after he left. Her resignation letter was brief but pointed. This environment isn't healthy. The culture allowed bad behavior to continue unchecked for too long. She listed me as her professional reference, which surprised me. When her new employer called, I gave her a glowing recommendation. Hannah was put in an impossible position by management. She handled it with grace and has tremendous potential in a supportive environment. She texted me afterward. "Thank you for not blaming me. I felt awful presenting your work." I replied honestly, "You weren't the problem. The system was. Go thrive somewhere better." She deserved that chance. We all did. The real villain was never the people caught in Brian's manipulations. It was Brian himself. I accepted an offer from a competitor 3 weeks after everything exploded. Better pay, full autonomy, a culture that actually valued documentation and transparency. During my final interview, the hiring manager said something that stuck with me. "I read your story when it circulated in our industry network. The way you handled that situation, with evidence and professionalism, showed real leadership. That's exactly what we need here." My new team welcomed me like I'd already proven myself. Because, in a way, I had. Not by being the loudest voice or the most aggressive fighter, but by being strategic, documented, and unwilling to accept gaslighting. My first project was developing better feedback systems so employees could escalate concerns safely. That felt right. That felt like winning. 1 year later, I led a workshop on workplace retaliation at an industry conference. 50 people filled the room, mostly young professionals navigating toxic managers. I told my story honestly. The credit theft, the gaslighting, the lie about my resignation, the nuclear email, the documentation that saved me. I closed with the words that had become my mantra. I didn't send that email to be dramatic. I sent it because I knew if I didn't, Brian would keep doing it to other people. The next person might not document everything like I did. They might not have evidence to fight back. The audience applauded. Afterward, dozens of people approached me with their own stories, asking for advice. I listened to each one, offering what wisdom I'd gained. My final words to them were simple. He erased me from the story, so I rewrote the ending myself. You can too. Document everything, trust yourself, and never let anyone gaslight you into silence.